today. This mic actually isn't even plugged in. Light's not on.
You sound good. What are we going over?
Today. Are you using drip campaigns still? If you are, do you honestly believe that email is the most effective way to communicate still? You're lying. And if you aren't using this tech, you are letting listings fall to other agents in your market currently.
100.
The unfortunate truth.
Yeah, I mean, we happen to know firsthand that email is the most ignored form of communication there is on the planet right now. And, we want to dive into some of the changes that are coming through with iOS and Facebook and Google Wars and how they're, eliminating tracking, which if you're a good real estate marketer is probably a concern because, essentially retargeting, following these people around on the internet could be at risk there. But as far as email drip campaigns, what I see most agents do is they just rely on some, kind of generic tool, right? Like maybe their brokerage's newsletter to essentially kind of spam that out to anybody that's in their database, and they don't even know the information that's in there. It could be totally contrary to what they actually preach and prescribe as far as their business is concerned. But I like to show everybody my inbox because it's one of the thicker ones. That's how many. That's how many. That's how many it was called. But 444,790 unread emails, and I'm never going to catch up. So, when somebody emails me, I ask them politely to please let me know so I can go find it.
I took it.
Like to respond.
I recently took mine down from 218,000 to 0 by just mass deleting.
Wow.
Get rid of.
Huh?
I just got completely rid of them because that gives me a lot of anxiety on my phone. So I was at a conference one time and they said, if you like a form of communication, don't like it for too long because marketers are going to come around and ruin it very soon.
Yeah. I mean, you can remember back when email was the path,
Right. Email was the way to go, right? Like direct mail used to be the way to go.
Dude, I can go back to when classifieds were the way to go. So you know what I mean? But here's the thing. Yeah, it always changes. Essentially, the formula for marketing and attracting customers doesn't change. But I think that, as real estate agents, we put very little time, thought, effort, and energy into the follow-up process, right? I've been talking to several agents recently, and one of them in general, I was like, well, what do you do for this? What do you do for that? What do you send to somebody that you have a listing appointment, right? Like prior to you showing up. The goal is, what would you like them to know about you prior to doing business with you, right? What would that be if you could wave a magic wand? Well, you'd want them to know a couple of things. You'd want them to know that, you're an expert in this market. You're going to be really good at solving their problem, right? Which is usually selling their home fast and for the most amount of money with the least amount of hassle. And you want them to look at you as, somebody who is a pillar in this market, in your community. I don't think that anybody puts that thought into the strategy behind the follow-up at all. Even the customers that we do this for, I don't even think they really understand it generally. They don't really know why it's important or how it will have a compound effect on their business as far as the way people treat you over time. And it's a wonderful thing when your reputation starts to precede you, but that is a strategy. And but the beginning is to be clear on what you want people to know about you.
And I don't think there's a person I've ever talked to that doesn't agree that real estate is a relationship business, right? Like it's the way to fight off all the big money that's coming in and all the portals that are trying to get their hands into the commission, jar, if you will. And the way to win is with relationships and building those relationships. But like, think about like your sphere and your closest people, right? Like, how you communicate with them. Do you think you just send them emails? No, you're taking them out to lunches. You're doing all kinds of stuff. Like like the all out referral based business, like those coaches and gurus and stuff all teach the same thing. Like have parties, do this, do that, do this, do this. And it's maintaining a relationship. And that's hard to do at scale, with thousands of people or your entire community, right? Or even the amount of people that are in your database. But luckily, technology has changed, right? And you can make people feel a certain way about you without just writing an email or sending them, my favorite is the recipe cards. Like the stuff like that, like you can actually add value. Think about celebrities either locally or nationally, right? That you feel like you have like a connection with, right? Like me personally, I feel like me and Ryan Reynolds would be boys, right? Like everything he does, I think is hysterical. Blah 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 blah. His interviews are funny, but like I see interviews, I see him talking about his kids and stuff. Like I feel like if I met him, I'd feel like I kind of knew him.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I feel the same way about Mark Wahlberg currently because I just watched a documentary on him on HBO, and like he was super vulnerable, right? He was going through, the shutdowns. He has his fingers in all these pies of these businesses. He's like, I really don't know what I'm doing in business, and I'm learning. I'm trying to diversify. He's like, I can't keep up forever. Acting, I do have a shelf life, and he recognizes these things, and he's like, people are gonna love watching this because I'm just imploding. Like the restaurant shut down, the F45 gym was shut down.
He
Like
owns
all
that,
these things. Yeah, yeah. Well, he had like some
ownership.
relationship. I don't know exactly, but yeah, he's got a some skin in that. It was like, what am I gonna do? Green Zebra was another one I didn't even know. My wife was like, we ate there in St. Armand's down,
No way.
by Sarasota. She's like, we ate at that Green Zebra. I was like, oh yeah, that was all that fancy organic, like overpriced stuff, but that didn't really taste very good, But anyway, I feel like I have an affinity towards him, and so that's the point of really a follow-up strategy, and that's what we want to communicate to you, because essentially, your follow-up strategy should build trust. It should make them know who you are and essentially like who you are, right? Know, like, and trust. I heard a long time ago somebody said, it was a marketer. He said, if everybody knew you, liked you, and trusted you, they would all do business with you, right? Oh, and believed what you say. And he said they would all do business with you, but they don't. And so, what are you going to do about it? I'm like, oh man, I don't know. I'm a trustworthy guy. How do I fix this? Pardon me. And the other part of this that is really crucial right now is the fact that everybody's going after, the now business, which is shrinking, which we touched on last week. And so you have to have these things in place. The market demands that you sharpen your game in these areas. Otherwise, you're going to keep getting pushed to the shallow end of the pond. And it's just going to keep happening over and over and over. And let me tell you, it's not easy. It is work, but it's work worth doing because it's foundational work. When you do this foundational work, life gets easier as time goes on. And, you need to have a multiple layered strategy for building know, like, and trust with your audience or your database or people that you spoke to that are moving later, right? I mean, it's just uncanny to me how many times I've sat in a listing appointment and signed with another agent's pen that they had sitting on their table, or look over at the calendar for the Cardinals, right? That's sitting on their fridge with the magnet. Like, what happened? What happened? I'll tell you what most likely happened. That agent didn't follow up. They didn't follow up, and they didn't have a strategy. They didn't have a plan. They didn't have, some forethought to that strategy, and they left it up to. I mean, even most agents don't have an email drip. You know what I mean? Like, if they do, I feel like
you feel like you're doing it right. Like I gotta.
Yeah. But no. And then on top of that, like we were saying, they've got these privacy changes coming down from Apple, which I'm actually a big fan of, right? I like privacy. I like not having my data be, out there without any control as far as my say is concerned. I don't like being the product on these social media platforms necessarily. And, it's the same with these portals. I mean, like, you got to realize who the customer is for these portals. It's not the agent, right?
Uh-huh.
You're not the customer. The customer is the person shopping. All of their thoughts, all of their strategies, all of their putting this button here, that button there is all designed for more consumer trust. But here's the good news. People don't trust brands like they trust people. And so if you've got a person, you're going to be able to still outcompete, right? Especially on a local level. And you just have to have these strategies in place to build that trust.
And it can be not necessarily manufactured, but it can just be enhanced so greatly by communicating more effectively. And I think that's just the big thing is like, how do you choose to communicate? Because everybody's a little bit different, right? Like I know for a fact there's people that hate picking up the phone, right? Like they would much rather
That's
just
becoming increasingly more the case, Jake. I mean,
ignore and text you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how can I avoid just talking to you because I don't want to have a conversation, right?
Well, and life is so busy. I mean, you might be in the middle of a meeting. I mean, that's what happens to me. If I text you back, it's because I'm on the other line, or I'm in the middle of a meeting, or I'm getting ready to walk into somewhere where I can't get drug into a conversation. I'm a talker. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to talk to you for a while if you let me. And if you're a talker, it's even worse. You know? Yeah. So like I might throw out a quick text. Hey, I'll get back to you shortly. What's up? Right?
Yeah.
Is there something I can just hurry up and deliver to you? But I want to talk about the strategy a little bit of knowing, liking, and trusting you as an agent out there for your community, right? Generally speaking, you're never going to really want to talk about yourself. And that's a mistake that agents always make, right? Like, I mean, even right now, people are like, "Oh, I sold this home for $40,000 over asking price." Whoopee, right? Like, that's the market we're in. If you want people to know something about you, you have to have a strategy in place for others to deliver that information. Those are testimonials. But essentially, a good follow-up campaign is going to be contextual to what the person is trying to accomplish, right? So if they're trying to sell their home, the things that are pertinent to the selling process, okay? If they're trying to buy a home, the things that are pertinent to the buying process. And if you do a good job of this, essentially what you're able to do is kind of program their brain in a way that they look at all of your competition as a part of the problem, and you as the only solution, right? And Jake knows this better than anyone as well. Just the ability to articulate the problem generally results in somebody thinking and assuming that you have the answer to it. And so those things position you as an expert, right? Today, video is very, very important. Like if you're not doing video and you're a real estate agent, man, I mean, you need to get over whatever it is that is stopping you. You need to look internally and have a real talk with yourself about, how you're going to get over that. I understand it. Took me a long time to get on video. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to be behind the scenes always, right? Because I was in front of the scenes in the real estate business. But guess what? The market demands this, right? And I will rise to the challenge. And you need to as well, because the more time they spend with you, right, the more they're going to trust you. And most real estate agents are high I personalities, essentially, for the most part. Some of them are Ds, but they're going to be influential. You're going to be a likable person. And that just comes off in video, right? Just like when you meet with somebody, you probably kill it. Same thing. Don't try to be fake. Don't try to be phony. Don't try to use a different pitch voice. Don't try to be different than you are and think that you have to create this fake persona, right? In order to do these types of things, because you don't. And essentially, if you do that, it'll backfire anyway, and you won't feel congruent inside. So you just want to be normal, be yourself, and just put yourself out there. Put yourself out there. What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is pin drop. Nothing. Nobody watches. Nobody sees. Nobody hears. So what do you got to lose?
Exactly. And it's being able to get in front. Like we've just done a lot of research on how people are consuming information now, right? And it's like way skewed to video. And you look at the path of it, and it's crossing over with TV and like actually like on your mobile devices now. More is being consumed on mobile devices than on TVs. So like you have to adapt. Like we talked about this all probably this entire week so far. Like if people do not have an online strategy in 2021, like holy schmoly, like welcome. You can change your world real fast.
Dude, we were just talking about this the other day. Like you talk to agents all the time, and I'm like, well, what is their marketing budget for online? He was like, man, most of them don't have one. I'm like, are you serious? It's 2021. This is where everybody is, including them. And you don't have a budget for online marketing? Are you kidding me? Where do you spend money? Where do you spend money? You're in business. You have to advertise, right? What's the old, I forget the person's name, but the spider spins his web in the door of the entrepreneur who doesn't advertise, right? Like you're going to grow cobwebs. You got to be out there. You got to be on the internet. You got to be making sure that you have a strategy in place. And, even if you don't have that, or let's say it's not in the cards for you right now, budget wise, and you need to, so you're going to get to it. In the meantime, anybody you have in a database, which hopefully you have some type of CRM to put them in, just be thinking about what you want to deliver them. And it needs to be around value to them, right? Not about you, value to them. The you will come from the value. They'll be like, man, I appreciate this information. And I think that a lot of times too, as agents, I know I made this mistake, Jake. We assume, because it's just so commonly known in our industry, that the consumer knows these things too, but there's specialized knowledge. It's just not the case, right? Like there's so many changes that happen in the industry all the time. Fiduciary duty, disclosures, lead-based paint disclosures, right? Like how these things will affect them, right? Just the littlest stuff, right? The different types of agency and what it means to the consumer. I mean, most consumers have no idea that if they call a listing agent, that they're talking to the person who's working for the seller, and they can't say anything to help them. You know what I mean? That would adversely impact their fiduciary duty to that homeowner, right?
Right.
This type of information is valuable to your consumer if they're looking to buy or sell, right? Especially today. I mean, why are we seeing all these offers over market? Well, it's because that agent, who's the listing agent, has a fiduciary duty to get the highest and best, the most amount of money out of that home, right? And people aren't asking pertinent questions like, what else is important to the seller besides price? Well, they're afraid they won't be able to find anything else. Okay. Well, if we let them stay for 6 months, would that be helpful? Yeah, that would be more helpful than another 10 grand even. Okay, cool, right? Specialized information, we just have a ton of it and we take it for granted. And so those are the type of things that you want to communicate. And again, contextual to whatever they're trying to accomplish, whether they're buyer or seller. The other thing that we like to do is change the way we communicate with them as far as the frequency and duration based on their timing, right? So like you don't treat everybody exact same. That's the problem with drip campaigns. If you're just sending out a drip campaign once a month with a silly little newsletter that you don't even read or know what's in it, don't know how it positions you, maybe it doesn't position you well. And by position, like if it talks about why you should use a real estate team and you're a single agent, and then you just sent that out, like you just shot yourself in the foot, right? Or if it talks about why you should use an agent that has this designation and you don't have that designation. Let me tell you, there are people that will read those things sometimes, especially people who have a lot of time on their hands and are, S&C personality types. They just like to dig into stuff. I had a customer one time, he was a really interesting guy. He built the first website in the state of Missouri, and he started spitting back to me this information. And I was like, damn, that sounds familiar. And I didn't say anything. And then he just keeps going. And he's like, and in your newsletter, and I just had some silly like stock newsletter that was going out via my website that I didn't even know was going out, Jake. Like I had a good follow-up strategy in place. Like I used snail mail back then. I'm like, this guy reads this stuff. This is unbelievable. Yeah. Anyway.
That article you wrote in September of 2006.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
I was like, wow, this guy got a lot of time on his hands, really detail-oriented individual.
And that's one of those things that like I just go back to Jay Abraham having a conversation one time, and he was like, we were talking about like, should we do this or should we do that or should we do this way and should we do it that way, right? And it was all these different angles. He was like, why wouldn't you just do all of them? We were like, okay, that would be the best way to get the most out of it, right? But I just think about that with communication, right? Like there's some people that still do, a very small amount of people that still do communicate pretty regularly via email, right? There's some people that are text messages. There's some people that are on social media like an ungodly amount of time a day, right? Like if you look at their phone history or battery usage, it would be scary to see how much is spent on social media apps, right? But that's why it's important to be everywhere, right? Having that is a term that I feel like got overused here for a while, but
well, yeah, we always talk about omnipresence, but it's air, land, and sea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're hitting them where they're at, which is here on their phone, right? Every time they open their email, they should be seeing some correspondence from you. Every time they go on Facebook, they should be seeing brand building retargeting ads that build trust, right? Seeing you and text messages, right? Phone calls, follow up, like the whole 9 yards, right? Video blogs, like you should be coming at them from every single angle. And I mean, that's what it takes these days because competition is so stiff, it's so fierce. And if you don't recognize that, then go get yourself a listing today, right? I think you'll find out real quick how stiff the competition is. And so what you want to do is you want to build, right, that future book of business by talking to people who are considering selling later today, right? So that you can have these campaigns in place. And before you know it, the tide turns. And now you are, right, getting these listings, getting these customers, getting them way in advance of a competitor even having a shot. You know, we were talking about naming yesterday, Jake, and I was like, man, I really like the word siphon because I feel like I just siphoned business off of, you know, all these old guard agents that had been doing it longer than I had been alive through these strategies. And, you know, it's not fair, right? But it really kind of is. I mean, like, I don't think the lion feels bad when he eats the bunny, you know? I mean, it's just what you got to do if you want to compete at a high level. And you know, this is the way it works. This is what it takes, and you can still do it right now. It's just right picking out there, especially based on the amount of people we talk to. We're like, hey, what's your budget for online marketing? Oh, zero, right? Like,
come on, you got to start, and it's got to be. It's even more important when you're at that point that it's kind of like a two-prong, like a two-front war, right? Like you don't want to stop worrying about the business right now. Like you still want to fight with everybody else, but you just want to make sure that everything else that the work that you're doing, that should be creating this nice big farm that should be able to be coming to like actually fruits of your labor here later down the road. Right? You want to make sure that's not just rotting behind you when you're not paying attention. You know what I mean? Like you want to have a plan in place where it's like, oh, we got all kinds of machinery that waters it when it's supposed to be watered and make sure it's getting the proper amount of sun and blah, 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 blah. Right. And, but you made me think about it. Michael Mahan, one of our clients in the DFW area, came in the office a couple weeks ago and we were just looking at some of the stuff and he was like, oh, I've never seen that. And I was like, oh man, I should be doing a better job of keeping this. But since it's almost exactly a year, the 23rd of 2020, April 23rd, 2020, is when we started his the retargeting campaign, right? And this is important because like the changes that are getting made with Apple and Facebook and privacy and all that fun stuff is really having a hard time with like pixels being put on. So like retargeting, for those of you that don't know, like it's what happens when you're on Amazon and you click on a product and you do not buy it, and then that product starts showing up in your news feeds and you're on Instagram and it's like, hey, you should come back and buy this thing, right? They've just pixeled you, right? But the way that we have it built in Market Maker is kind of circumventing that because we're able to actually do it based off of the person's information. And we're saying, hey, this person, not this pixel. So it has nothing to do with what we're tracking and everything to do with just the profile. But this dude has about 1,500 leads in his database now over the course of just shy of a year. And can you see that?
Yeah. 66,000 people have seen his branding ads. And, yeah, but to be clear, that strategy isn't to generate leads. That strategy is to impress upon your leads, continue top of mind consciousness on your part to build, you know, trust-based branding is basically what we've been calling it internally. Because it's the key. And here's the thing, you guys, like we practice what we preach, right? We do the same thing to get customers from Market Maker that we prescribe to our clients, and we're not guessing, right? And it was the same things that I did, just different forms of media, different digital strategies today in my real estate business as well. And if you're feeling overwhelmed thinking about this, like, oh crap, one more thing I got to do, just know that you don't have to do it, right? Like my favorite story is about Ford, right? And they were trying to prove that he wasn't very smart. and they put them in a room and they're asking them all these, tough questions about, the thickness of the metal in the car, and the viscosity of the oil, and the tires, what have you. And he just put a phone next to him, and every time they'd ask him a question, he just called the person in charge of that, right? And they're like, aha, we do. And I don't even know if the story is true, but we knew you weren't, a genius. He's like, I don't have to be. I just have to find people to do it for me. And so, if it gives you overwhelmed thinking about this, I know that it would me if I was listening to this and I didn't have these things in place. I'd be like, crap, I know I got to do it. It's one more thing. Just know that, we can help you with those things. And if you don't want us to help you, go find somebody to help you. There are people out there that do this, but don't ignore it, because doing what you did got you to where you are. It's not going to get you to where you want to go, period. And if you want to increase your business, you want to do more, you're going to have to do something different, right? Definition of insanity, everybody knows, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. In this market, I mean, it's shifted fast, right? Like, it's unbelievable, really. It's crazy. And it can do it again. But guess what? Everything that we're talking about creates a strategy for any market. It doesn't matter, because the more people who know, like, and trust you in your market, the more people you can attract to you, and essentially raise their hand and say, hey, I'm over here, I'm looking to buy or sell some real estate, and then have a good follow-up plan in place that works so you don't have to, right? That does these things automatically. You don't even have to think about it, like a well-oiled machine, like a clock. It doesn't matter what the outcome of the market necessarily is. You can make money in the good market. You can make money in the seller's market. You can make money in the buyer's market. You can make money in a down market. I mean, it's just, the people are still there. They're going to need homes to live in. They're going to need somebody to help them find those homes or sell those homes, especially if they get tight. And, it's a foundation. It's a foundation that if you don't have this, the symptoms of it are lack of consistency in your business, right? Not knowing where your next deal is coming from, anxiety all the time, thinking that you have all these things to do and not really being able to get them done. These are the things that you feel, and it's like just total chaos with no prioritization of, what to do and what order. And it's because you don't have that foundation built, and you're not watching, the machine do its job, watching the metrics. And you can do it the hard way, like I did. You can build it and Frankenstein a bunch of tools together, or you can do it the easy way and have us help you, essentially.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't mean to turn that into a pitch, but it kind of just naturally went into one. Like, it'd be crazy not to have these things in place in 2021. I mean, it's literally back to the future. Like, yeah.
You gotta have the strategy, and it's the pieces, and obviously something's better than nothing always. But if knowing, like, it's kind of like seeing something that you can't unsee and be like, okay, it's hard to go back to doing it. What now feels like the old
wrong way, the old one, the wrong way. Yeah, not being able to push a button on your phone and know that they're going to get every single retargeting ad, every single video blog, every single update of homes that can match their criteria, or market updates if they're sellers, with like one click. You just set it and forget it, like old Ron Popeil. I mean, it's just, it's how I always set up my business. The difference was, it was people dependent. The people had to fulfill, right? Like, if I put somebody on a follow-up campaign that was snail mail, like, somebody had to stuff that thing in the envelope in my office and get it out and click off the task on their, contact management system, so that, you know what I mean? Like, and then I'd have to go in and look, right, and make sure that they didn't have to tickets out. Like, it was old school, man. There was a time when, like, we didn't even have those things connected, and I would have to, like, download on a floppy disk my database and then take it over to my buyer's agent and upload it onto his every day.
Did you say floppy disk?
Oh, maybe it was hard disk.
I hope
one of those old school things like CDs, right? Nobody knows what those are. My son's so intrigued by CDs. He's like, but how does it work? How does the music come out? He's like, can you order me a CD, Dad? I gave him an old alarm clock CD player, and he's like, can I take this apart? I'll let you do whatever you want. He's like, well, I just want to try it first, Anyway, get off topic.
It works.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up. Listen, If you want some help with these things, again, go to marketmakercall.com. It's exclusive. It's one agent per zip code. Check it out. See if your area is available. And if it is, take the next step. Set up time with us to see if it's a mutual fit. Marketmakercall.com. Go check it out.
Bada bing, bada boom. And as we always say at Market Maker, you are always just one pre-position to put away.
Every day.
Go get it.
Be kind to yourself.
There you go.